The ability to play with speed is an editor's best friend. It allows you to control the dynamics of pacing within a narrative. You can use it to slow down, speed up, or ramp up clips, playing with time and creating those precious moments that you're looking for. While traditional methods shot in camera have gotten way better for both speeding up as well as overcranking your camera for slow motion, traditional methods in post-production haven't been as effective, sometimes creating unwanted artifacts and even warping on challenging parts of your footage. This is where Boris FX Continuum 2024.5 comes into play with our new Retimer ML filter. You drag and drop it onto a clip, choose your desired time, whether slowing down or speeding it up, and voila, experience pristine, crystal clear results. Let's take a look at how we can work with Retimer ML inside of Adobe Premiere Pro. Okay, here's the clip that I'd like to slow down. It's quite long, just shy of 30 seconds. And I'll head over to my effects tab where we can find all the continuum-based effects. I'll just do a search for Retimer. And under the BCC time category, we'll find it. With my clip selected, I'll double click it to apply it to the clip. And if we head over to Effect Controls, we'll see here that it's applied to the source layer, or in this case, our video track 1, using our only current model, which is ML-V1. As we roll out additional models with maintenance releases, as well as different continuum versions, you'll see this update over time. Now, the first thing that we want to look at is working with the speed. So I'm going to adjust this to be 60%. And unlike working with speed inside of Premiere Pro, when you go into the Retime dialog box, this is not going to adjust the length of the clip. We'll need to go through a nesting workflow in order to accomplish that. Well, once I do 60%, you may have seen a little bit of an update here with the existing frame of the hummingbird. And one way to see this being slowed down clearly would be to use our new compare mode, which has been added to BCC Plus effects. So in fact, if I twirl this down and turn the compare mode to side by side, we'll see the original image on the left and our retimed 60% image on the right. If we're looking to get our action more in the center of the frame, simply drag the right offset. We could also play with the wipe value to adjust the framing of both shots simultaneously. I'll play this back, and you can see the much slower motion version on the right, not to mention that it preserves that crisp, clean detail that's within the shot. Now, if it's your intention to not use the first frame of the clip that's inside your timeline, we can adjust that by using the time offset value. So if I come here to time offset, and just to let you know, some of the best action here is closer to the end of the clip, where we'll see on the left, the bird flying out of frame here, just around the 26-second mark. And just because we are working with frames instead of seconds, a handy trick in the Premiere Pro timeline is to right-click and change your time code to frames so we can find out that exact one. And if I just wanted to move before that 633 frame mark, I could enter that in the time offset value. So I'll enter in 600, and you should see that shift here on the image here on the right. And just so we know what we're working with, here's how that clip is going to look now that I've adjusted the time offset to 600 frames. Just playing motion towards the end of the clip, and you'll notice at the end frame of the shot, because there are no other frames, once the bird flies out of the shot, the clip will go black because there is nothing else that we can access here. Now, in those situations where not only do you want to slow down a clip, but also extend it in length, we need to walk through a nesting workflow. And because this takes extra steps than working natively inside most NLEs, it's good to know why. So here are some side-by-side comparisons comparing Retimer ML's results next to traditional speed methods of slowing down in post-production. Notice the unwanted artifacts on the left-hand side from the frame blending method, as well as how optical flow in many situations with complicated movement or overlapping action fails. So now we know that the Retimer ML method will give you a better result from its training algorithm. Let's hop in and see this workflow in action. And first thing I want to mention is we already have it enabled this to be set to frames, which carries on over to the next sequence. This shot happens to be 450 frames, and I like to slow it down to 60%. What we'd like to do is take 450 and then divide that by 0.6 to know the exact amount of frames that we use. We can then apply this to any nest we create to know how long it needs to be and add the appropriate filler at the end of the shot. Okay, so in this case, I'll show this by going to the sequence settings. And if you didn't know, fields like this allow you to do different types of math operations in them. Under frame size temporarily, I'm going to type in 450. I'm going to use the division symbol and divide this by 0.6. Just click outside of the field to see the result of 750. And that's what I'm going to need for the nest. Making sure I don't adjust the frame size, I'm just going to cancel out of here and then get to work. I like to come over here to the project manager. Let's go to new item and just add some black video, which will match our existing sequence that's open. I'll take that black video and append it here to the end of the timeline. But in this case, just move my playhead to 750 frames, and I'll click on the out point of my black video and just press E to extend that edit. Now that this is set up, let's select both of these clips, right-click and choose Nest, which I will call Retimer 60. Now that we have our nest, let's head to our Effects tab like we did before, and I'll apply the Retimer ML. Let's head to Effect Controls and slow this down to 60%. When playing this back, we want to notice a couple things: the flickering light in this shot and how Retimer seems to preserve the details within that. And through our extension, using a little bit of division, we're able to get this shot extended for its entire full duration versus it being cut off. Now, while the slow motion features of Retimer ML were featured in the last two examples, we could also use it to speed up, not to mention remap the timing of our clips. Let's see that in this next example. I have a shot here in the timeline of a car going across a beach. And what I'd like to do is play it at 200% at the beginning of the shot. And right here where the camera starts to rotate around that Jeep, I want to slow it down to 50%. And close to here where it starts to pull out facing the Jeep face forward, I want to be able to play that back at 125% speed. So just like before, I'm going to apply Retimer ML to the clip here in my timeline. In order to assist me through this keyframing process, I want to make sure a few things are turned on. One is if I go to my settings here, I want to ensure that effects badges are showing and that my clip is tall enough. I'll right-click that badge here on the right, and under BCC Retimer ML, make sure to show speed. Now, while I can keyframe this effect directly in the timeline, since I do want to ease in and ease out the motion between my speed transitions, I'll do my work inside of Effect Controls. Press Shift-5 to head to Effect Controls. Now, before I start keyframing this, it's important to note that Retimer also works well with odd numbers like 53%, 21%, etc. While I'll be using whole numbers for this example, we'll see a final example with these odd numbers at the very end of this. I mentioned the beginning speed that we want here on this clip happens to be 200%. So the clip is now sped up, and right around that camera starting to rotate around the Jeep just before 5 seconds, I'll add a keyframe to the speed value. I want this ramp to last just about a second, so I'll move forward to just around 5:20, and now set the speed to 50. Now, if I take a closer look in Effect Controls by clicking the plus icon to zoom in, I'll see that both of these keyframes are linear, and in order to have a nice transition, I'll right-click the first keyframe, and in this case, I'm going to choose to ease out of it. We'll see it, the icon changed, and I'll right-click the second keyframe and make sure to ease into it. In order to see this in a graph display, all we have to do is next to the speed value, click the disclosure triangle, you'll see a nice curve easing out and easing into the next keyframe. Moving forward, I'll move my playhead further down into the timeline, and it's at this point, 1428, I'll click on the Add Remove Keyframe button, and then just zoom out so you can see how that keyframe looks, and that there is no easing between these because we want that speed duration of 50 to be held between these 2 points. And then I'll move forward to around here, where we'll set the speed to 125. So we got a nice little easing transition again, as we transition from a 50% speed to 125% speed. And as mentioned earlier, I'm now going to show you an example that has the speeds with odd numbers. Let's see that right next to optical flow. So that's how you can use Retimer ML inside of Boris FX Continuum 2024.5. While I demonstrated this in Premiere Pro, this works in After Effects and any host that Continuum supports. For more tips and tricks just like this, don't forget to check out borisfx.com, as well as subscribing to our YouTube channel. Give us a thumbs up, and I'll see you around the channel sometime soon.